Evening, Chief Pickering's here.
Anyone at home, just
I got it, no, sorry.
anyone at home, just follow along on the pledge. Confirmation of appropriate meeting notice.
Meeting was noticed on Friday, December 4th. Agenda is posted at the post office, library, and city hall.
And then we'll go to the council acceptance of the agenda.
Make a motion to accept?
A second.
I'd like to make a motion that we move the planning commission meeting discussion up to the first committee report under 9. So 9E would become the first report, since we have guests for the planning.
Need a second on that, or can that just be a friendly change?
There's no reason not to. I think, I'd have a second.
Or a second to,
I'll second.
motion to move up planning to the first committee report. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, roll call.
Burdick,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Motion passes, and then the original motion to accept the agenda. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, roll call.
who made that original motion? Braun,
Ron Casey. Yeah.
thank you. Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Motion passes. Before we go to the next item, I'm going to read through the directions for those of you listening in at home. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. You will be muted by the host. If you wish to speak during the meeting, you must raise your hand using the Zoom meeting function. Please do not speak until you are asked to do so after you have raised your hand. The public will be allowed to speak during public input for non-agenda items. For items on the agenda, the public will be allowed to speak when the council committee reaches that item on the agenda. We will not be using the chat this evening. To raise your hand in Zoom, go to the bottom of your screen, click on participants. A screen will appear on the right-hand side of the screen. At the bottom, you will see a button that says raise hand. Click on it. You'll be unmuted and asked to make your comments when it's your turn. Please state your name and address before you make your statement. For those people who are participating by calling on phone near the end of the agenda item, you'll be unmuted so that you can make your statement. Okay. Let's move on to the public hearing. The city council will hold a public hearing to hear comments regarding special assessments for the Lord Street sidewalk project. Quick back. background.
The Public Works Committee has met on this item and wishes for the city to proceed with the installation of one piece of missing sidewalk along Lord Street between South Avenue and Orchard Heights subdivision. There have been several requests from residents in Orchard Heights who are required to walk in the highway in order to get back onto a sidewalk to get anywhere north of their subdivision. The Code of Ordinances requires that sidewalks be installed on all collector streets such as Lord Street. The proposal is to install the sidewalk and assess the one adjoining property owner through a special assessment. There's a resolution in your packet, which you'll consider this evening. That resolution has blanks in it for you to fill in. As you recall from past resolutions, you will have to determine the interest rate and the number of years the owner would have to repay this special assessment. The most recent special assessment was Henderson Street, where you gave an interest rate of 2.5% and a 10-year term. This is an estimated cost of about $3,500. So when the costs are this high, the term usually is longer. That is your choice this evening, though.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this? Is there anyone on the screen there that wishes to speak on it?
Want to leave this person on the phone?
Is there no other hands up?
No other hands
Okay.
up.
And then we have one phone in. We will see if they have anything to say. We'll unmute the phone in. Any phone calls are unmuted? Is there anything you'd like to say on this item? Hearing none. We will close the public hearing. And then move on to consider payment terms and adoption of City of Edgerton Resolution 2021 preliminary resolution declaring the city council's intention for the Lord Street sidewalk project to exercise special assessment police powers under section 66.0703 Wisconsin statutes.
I'll make a motion to approve, using 2.5% with a 10-year term,
Second.
as we have previously in other situations like this.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes?
Burdick,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Motion passes. Now we'll move on to public appearances. Public appearances for non-agenda items. Anyone that wishes to speak on anything that's not on the agenda tonight? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to the minutes. The minutes from November 16th.
Make a motion to accept the minutes, November 16, 2020 council meeting.
I'll second.
Is there any corrections or additions? Hearing none, roll call.
Burdick,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Motion passes. One quick question. Ann, can you hear us all right out there?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, now on to committee reports, and we will go to planning. Anybody want to handle the planning?
You got it, bud. What?
You want to take the planning, or
I can take
you want
mine.
me to read through it all first?
All right. What?
Okay. Most of the things we took from the last meeting are on here, so the item on there is to consider introducing, approving the first reading of City of Edgerton Ordinance 20-12, amend section 22.210, official zoning map for the property east of Dean Street from A1 to R2 and R4 with a planned unit development. there anyone wants to make a motion on that?
So we can move forward on it, I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. We have a couple people in the audience that wish to speak. Paula, go ahead. Oh, Tracy first. Lean into the microphone because we've heard that we can't be heard too good on these
With the mask,
out in the
with the mask.
Zoom area.
Okay. My name is Tracy Dranas. Address is 605 Dean Street. And my property is would be to the west of the proposed development area. Just want to note that I support development of this property. When we built our home there, that was the expectation, is that there would be development to the east of us. The concern I have about this particular proposal is not the R2. I think R2 is fine. The concern is the R4 area. The reason for that is the density. I took a look at the information that was provided at planning, and it indicates in the R4 that there will be potentially 48 households with a narrow private street. The narrower private street allows for shorter setbacks. So in taking a look at that, it looks like there's a potential for 96 vehicles in this area. The townhouses that were in the packet have a single car garage. If setbacks are shorter, sidewalks required, cars may not be able to park in the driveway. So we'd be looking at potentially 48 vehicles parking in what is already a narrower road. The other thing I noted from the packet is that townhomes were supposed to create a perfect living opportunity for aging population. Most of the folks that I know that are looking for some sort of retirement situation are looking for something that's single story. And it looked like the townhomes are a 2-story with all the bedrooms on the second floor. So I was looking at the plan and I didn't see the opportunity to move like a master bedroom to the first floor. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're looking at the R4 portion. Might be a better fit to have a single-story condo with perhaps a 2-car garage. Similar, there's some in the West Meadows subdivision. So that was the only comment I have on the development. Again, support the R2, not a fan of R4. There was another comment that came up at the Planning Commission. Sorry, this is warm. There was a comment made about the road extension of Wildman Drive. We have a family LLC that owns that property, and as far as we know, there's not a plan to extend the road for this development. So I just wanted to address the rumor that's been floating around toward us, the comments that we've received. So I just want to make that clear. At this point, there is not an intention to run a road extending Wildman Drive. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Paula?
I'm Paula Carrier. I live at 131 Dakota Street in Edgerton. I'm also the owner of Best Realty of Edgerton, and I'm involved with the sellers and the buyer on this property for this planned development. And with Tracy's concerns, and I know there's been some other people that have voiced the R4 situation, we really believe by doing that R4 PUD that we were not putting all the control in our hands. And when I say our, I mean the buyer developer, so I don't mean to say that I'm the developer, because I'm not. But with it being a PUD, what's nice is you just would be approving the zoning, that R4 would have to come back, if you read in the report from the city, I have trouble reading too, that spells out that there has to be a precise implementation plan, or a PIP, that has to be approved by the city to allow for whatever planned unit development was going in that R4 area. And so all you're doing now is just the zoning. They, with the PUD, would have to come back before you and have things approved. And with that, they weren't, and I think I can speak on behalf of them, that this was just to give you an illustration to see the layout. I don't think that the plan that you see there is exactly what they were going to use. It was proposed. So I hope that helps clear the air a little bit on that. And as far as the development goes, when I made a comment last meeting about what's out there for land for sale, lots. In the city of Edgerton, there's one on Blanchard. It's got 2 garages on it. And the other area is all surrounding, like Mallwood, Highwood, Glen Oaks area, and there's a total of 28 lots, and that's it. And that's all in the Edgerton address, the 53534. So development is hugely needed. It's something that I've been pushing and pushing because I want to help our city thrive. I want to see growth come to our community, especially planned growth, and this fits the city's plan completely, which I thought was a nice combination of someone willing to take a risk right now with a pandemic, with an economic downturn that we came out of 2008, spending quite a bit of money to develop this land, and is excited to work with the city on doing this. I hope we can make it go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Dorothy?
I didn't register before. May I speak now?
Oh,
I didn't
so
check in.
not if you're here, you don't have to. I mean, you don't have to register. You can state your name and address at the microphone.
My name is Dorothy Gunderson. I live at 347 Wellman. The concern I have, and I am for development also.
Dorothy, we gotta have you speak at the microphone because they
Oh,
can't hear
I'm
very
sorry.
good on the
Okay.
ones that are remote.
I am for more development. I think we really need it in Edgerton. My concern is with the zoning R4, and then the parkland on the opposite end for R1, or no, R2, excuse me, R2 down on East Lad Lane. If these units have 3 bedrooms, I assume there's going to be children up and down also. They're going to go through that whole development before they get to the parkland. So I think that if it was maybe possibly reversed somehow to have not the R4 at the very end and the parkland down here. The parkland's down here already. Sorry at home. That's just my comments. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody waving out there?
No, no hands are up.
Anyone else in the audience? Okay, we will move on to further discussion here at the council level. Anybody?
So I just want clarification, I think what Paula had said. We're just discussing the rezoning. We're not discussing the type of building, what it's going to look like or anything like that, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that was also one
So
of
in
my
other words,
questions.
as she said, I'll piggyback on it, because that was what I was gonna say everything you just said, Paula, wherever she went.
She's
I was
right
gonna say the
there.
same thing. Just to be clear, that's all we're here for tonight, is just to rezone, because nothing can happen unless that's rezoned, right, as far as development.
Right, so the condition, it's a plan development, so the last stage of the plan, the PIP, is a very detailed public hearing review of all of the conditions, many of the issues we were speaking of tonight, the details of parking, the details of the public versus private road, those are all things that the plan commission will have to evaluate. and will all be part of that approval. And if approval isn't given, it reverts back to its original zoning, which is A1. So what you have in front of you is the first stage, which is zoning, and it gives you a flavor or an intention of the developer. And, but ultimately, the details of the development will be decided after another public hearing at the Plan Commission. And then as part of that, all the detailed plans regarding the services, sewer, water, curb, gutter, all of that, sidewalk will all be debated and in a plan. So there's much really conversation to come regarding that development.
Which is a great time for all the concerns to be brought forward. And we would have the planning commission and the council would have the same concerns that you guys have stressed or expressed at this meeting. Well, some of you, to me on the outside. And that would be the time. Right now, nothing can happen. We know we all need development. So unless we change the rezoning and give some leeway, we got to do something to get it done. But we're not going to approve things that we don't think match or don't make sense. And I agree, I'm just going to say I agree with some of the things I've heard out there on this plan that was put forward, but it's not a PIP. So until we get the PIP to discuss, right now, we're just going on a rezoning off of this plan proposal, like Paula said, it's just an illustration, someplace to start, to show them that they fit within, what do we call our master plan, comprehensive master plan of the city, which it does, coincidentally, it does fit into the plan. So in other words, the big discussions are going to come at the next few meetings if we approve this ahead of time. But until then, nothing else can happen. So I'm just going to say, I don't want to appear development unfriendly, and I think we're going to get a bad rap if we don't at least give them something a chance to come back with something that we do want to approve and that we can live with in the city.
I think Ann raised her hand as well, so.
She's,
She's unmuted.
she is, yep.
Ann, you've got something you want to say?
Yes, I totally love the idea of development and the plan looks good. I'm not happy or pleased or excited about the R4. I think that maybe the R2 over in that corner would be better. But I like the idea.
Okay, thank you.
Does anything, if we approve this part tonight, if the developer has a change of heart later, does it slow things up much? Or I mean, is it just another vote like this if they come back and say they want to do something else with that R4 area?
If it's drastically different, then we may need to repeat this public hearing step.
Drastically being R2 or R1 instead of R4?
Correct.
So they couldn't come back with R2 if we'd done it with R4. He couldn't go lower than what we.
Well, if they came back with a subdivision, let's use an example. I'm going to look to Bill to weigh in on this. Right now, they're planning it as a planned development, so that would be private streets and a neighborhood association, private stormwater control. If they were to come back and say, we just want to divide it as a subdivision, then the R4 zoning can stand, but they haven't finished the PIP. So my interpretation of the plan development process is we'd go back to A1 and then we'd start over again. Because the plan development process says if you don't finish the PIP, it reverts back to the original zoning.
That is correct.
So if it were just zoned straight R4 and they wish to just build single families in that, you can build a single family in an R4 district. So I think that the plan development is once you start down that road, you need to finish it or you need to take a step back.
The R2 area would stand, of course.
Everybody else get us cleared mud on that one? Steve? No? Okay.
Anyone else have any more discussion?
I just echo what Candy and Jim said about the clarifications for what exactly we're deciding this evening, as well as I appreciate all of the feedback we've gotten. So I've taken note to keep in mind when we have to come back to this discussion to move forward, so.
I have one more question, just about the road extension.
Yes.
Is there any clarification on what we heard there? Does all of this hinge on that road extension happening? Or would the developer be fine if that never came to be?
It's not required for this development to happen. That road extension is not a piece. It would develop when the landowners who control that land choose to develop it.
Yep.
So at this point, this subdivision can stand on its own.
But the access then would still just only be Cherry and Huber.
And Dean, right, it would be through the neighborhoods that we've been, yes, for those of you who weren't at plan, that's correct. Until that road connects through, then yes, or the development
way.
continues north and then it ultimately Lad Lane or
Land, that's gonna come in eventually.
other streets would, yes, correct.
Can you see the road you're referring to is Wildman Drive? Is that the road? Okay, just making sure.
Is there any other way from that direction, other than Wildman, that something was gonna go through?
No.
Nothing, because we did hear that at planning, I think, somehow.
Yeah, Henderson has been, was one street that would be parallel, but now that the land dedication took place for that 6 acres of parkland, Henderson won't be extended.
Okay,
And then Dean Street obviously is already cul-de-sac, so that's it.
okay.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Motion passes. And we might as well do the other part of planning while we're there. So if there's someone who likes to take on the extraterritorial one-lot land division for 11409 North Dolman
Make a
Road.
motion for an extraterritorial one-lot land division for 11409 North Dolman Road for Donstead, Section 5, Town of Fulton.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Burdick,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, back up to Finance Committee.
Okay.
Now we're on the boring stuff, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you
Thank you,
guys for
everybody.
coming.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
Finance met this evening. Motion to approve bills and payroll in the amount of $358,733.17.
Second.
Any questions on the bills? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to approve new tobacco license for Quick Trip Inc., DBA Stop and Go, number 1500 at 1 South Main Street.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Davis, or Burdick,
Yes.
sorry.
Motion passes.
Motion to approve quote for the purchase of Central Park bathroom partitions in the amount of $3,105 to the low bidder, which is 1 Point Partition.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to approve bid for Toolcat Salt and Sand Spreader in the amount of $2,982 to the low bidder of Double D Services, Inc.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to approve quote for Racetrack Park upper bathroom ventilation system in the amount of $3,262 to the low bidder of Air Care Specialists, LLC.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to approve declaring the 2013 Dodge Charger as surplus.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to approve the replacement of rock climber at Hain Road Park in the amount of $1,478.04 with the low bid going to Game Time Distributor.
Second?
Any discussion?
I just had a question. It was the one item, it didn't note what was budgeted for that.
I had, I think, in my notes. It's under the budget.
It is?
Do you remember, Howard? off the
I
top
thought
of
it
your
was 1,500.
Okay.
It's right there.
All right.
Yep, it was
Oh, I
1,500.
think you're right, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Yes.
Burdick,
Motion passes.
Motion to approve the purchase of compost bins for resale to residents, purchasing 76 bins and reselling them to citizens for the actual cost of the bins.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to approve bid for real estate acquisition consulting services for the South Main Street project to the low bidder, which is G.J. Meisbauer and Associates, Inc., in the amount of $90,800, and authorize staff to negotiate contract for services.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to approve adoption of City of Edgerton Resolution 22-20, 2021 salary resolution.
Second?
Any discussion?
Is this how we're dividing or setting up working overtime?
Oh, nope.
Time and a half?
This
No?
is the annual resolution that you do regarding next year's, the wage increases that were granted during the budget. So this is what puts those wage increases in place for next year.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion to approve the selection of GovHR to complete the wage study for $13,600 plus any cost for updating job descriptions.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Motion passes.
And motion to approve scope of work with Vandewaal and Associates for TIF planning.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Motion passes.
And that's it for finance.
Thank you. Public Works.
Okay. Well, we met the other day, and as some of you know, we had quite a discussion. We had a 1-year or a trial period on parking on Randolph Street, where we have parking on one side now allowed, and it wasn't in the past. We had a public hearing on it, lots of discussion, and the committee voted to maintain as is, because we'll keep parking on that side of the street. I can't even remember which side it was, south side.
South side.
South side we got, okay, so we allowed parking on south side. Compost bins was covered already, the committee sent that forward, you guys already did that. We discussed community gardens. Discussion on that issue began with lots of out there being claimed by people, but not being utilized by people in the community garden. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah, because there's no charge, people would sign up and reserve one, we would prepare all of the plots, and then no one would garden. Or
So-
very few people would garden.
Yeah, so there's no follow-up on the gardening. So what the committee decided was that we were gonna kind of downsize the lots a little bit, so they're not so big, make them more manageable, and gonna charge a minimal fee, just a basic fee, just to figure people are interested, they're gonna pay $10. So what we did, we went 10 by 10 for $10. Kind of nice and simple, threw that out there. So at least if we're gonna go through preparing them, you know, if they're gonna put $10 into them, maybe they'll go through with it. Restriping of Main Street was first brought up. That was budgeted, Main Street in Fulton was budgeted for next year. So being the time to discuss the restriping it to 3 lanes came up, and the committee directed staff to begin the education of the public through a newsletter prior to having public hearings on that, this being the first step, the public hearing, the education of the public on the 3 lanes. You guys have seen that, I'm guessing, what the plan is for that. So we're at least just going to initiate the discussion on it. Natural lawn ordinance, we've got that coming up, do we not? Oh, we're going to read that in a minute, okay. Well, then it would be my turn right now to bring that up. Never mind. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we consider, or that we introduce and approve the first reading City of Edgerton Ordinance 20-11, amend Chapter 17 to add natural lawn regulations to the ordinance in the Code of General Ordinances.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I had a few questions. I know we changed the setback, and I don't think that amount got changed at the end here. Under G, violation and penalty, there's 4 references of 5 foot, and I think all should be 4.
Oh, you know what? That section, Casey, is a carryover that was, let me just read it real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, this was a provision that is actually not part of the ordinance. I apologize. We had in an earlier draft of the ordinance, the ability for a neighbor to stop the installation. And the committee directed staff that neighbors would be notified of a natural lawn being approved, but not the ability to stop. So before I removed and erased all that language, I threw it at the bottom of the ordinance, and there it is. So please, after G, that language is not to be included.
Oh,
So I
okay.
apologize for that. So hopefully the one place where it does say 4, or the places where it should say 4, it does. Let's see. Yeah, 4-foot setback in CC 1E, 10 foot from a right-of-way, 4 feet from a side lot line. So I think that's the only place we talk about setbacks.
Okay.
So I apologize for that.
And I have
So that-
another,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
sorry, another question. Under, where are we here? G, under exceptions, way down under the CC, the natural lawn area.
Uh-huh.
My question is, it references rain gardens.
Oh,
And what is the difference between a rain garden and what we're talking about here?
well, the rain garden would specifically be an area that is made to contain and hold rainwater from some, as you know, what they're used for. So these are things that don't require, right? You cannot have, I had this in a different section before and I moved it, so I just want to make sure I have it correct now. Yes, this is Cindy and I cross wires. This is an earlier version of an ordinance. So rain gardens should be under the exceptions, under G, 1 through 7. So the rain garden would be an area that would be an exception that you would automatically be able to have longer, without a permit, taller things, because that's what a rain garden is. That's why you're asking, right?
That's right.
So in reviewing the ordinance before it went in the packet, I moved rain gardens to the section from where it is to where it should be, so I apologize. The intention was that a rain garden doesn't require a permit because it is in and of itself something that is taller plant material.
So it would just be a numbered 8 or?
Correct.
Okay.
So again, I apologize. We got our wires crossed. I didn't get the last version to Cindy for the packet, so my fault.
So it's not the difference between continuous cover, which you think of as a natural lawn,
Right.
and a rain garden is here, there, because in theory, the natural lawn is what's best for a rain garden.
Yes, it would be the native plant materials that like it in rain gardens are taller than 6 inches. Yeah. So that's a very specific, small area in a yard that shouldn't require a permit, I wouldn't think. We would want to encourage everyone to put rain gardens in because it's really good for stormwater control.
Right, exactly. That's where I was going with that.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah,
all
good
right.
point.
And then along those lines, underneath where rain gardens was D, is this still proper then, the E, the area near a public right of way? My question is, are we getting to, we may have an instance where the natural lawn is really the best use right there for natural drainage, correct? Is that what that's getting at there? That, would the Public Works Director still have the latitude to look at that and go, yeah, that some tall vegetation there would be the best thing to mitigate flooding or stop erosion or catch stormwater?
If it were within that 10 feet, could it be allowed? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah,
No, I don't think so. I think the ordinance says it has to have a 10-foot setback. If there is an exception, if it were a natural floodway, wetland, or waterway that's been allowed to remain in its natural state, I mean, there may be, that's an exception in this over here. So
Okay.
there would be some latitude there. But if it was just someone who wanted it, I mean, there have to be some reason, I think, under the exceptions that are under G.
okay. But given that point, it's covered here, right? We're
I
not
think
running into we're not setting up a problem.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think it would, if it were a wetland or a floodplain, and it were within 10 feet of, and there are some of those around, where they're within 10 feet of right of way, we would not want it removed or mowed.
Yep.
We would want it to stay in that
Okay.
state.
Great.
I apologize for those.
Okay, so
miscommunications.
basically, we moved rain gardens over to number 8 under G.
Yes,
G8, did we wipe out that whole paragraph under?
yeah, that thing that doesn't mean anything that's
Okay.
floating there, yeah, that's what that is.
And,
We still have another reading to look at
I
this.
was gonna say, yeah, I think
Okay.
this is just the first reading, so the second one will,
Unless you want to skip the first reading tonight and send it back, then do 2 more readings.
that was gonna be my next question, do we need to do that, or no? We know what we need change, right?
Right.
Good enough,
Yeah.
everybody agrees,
I think
okay.
that's
So we'll
sufficient,
just
yeah.
consider this the first, amended it, and then we'll get the second and next one. Thank goodness. All right, what else we got? Everybody good on that one? We didn't make a motion or vote yet, did we?
We haven't voted.
Any more discussion? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
This isn't public works.
And my team's not even playing tonight, so. Okay.
Now, is it okay to take the roll call as amended now? Because we get to see it again in 2 weeks, so. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call on the amended ordinance.
Burdick,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Motion passes. That looked like it from Public Works, huh?
That's it, yep.
Thanks. Personnel.
Yes, personnel met last week, and we discussed 2 items. The first was the wage study, which we approved at Finance and then tonight at Council. And the other item we discussed was, and you'll see in your packet, page number 6, paid holidays counting as hours worked for computing overtime. So currently, staff needs to physically work every day 40 hours throughout the week before overtime kicks in, and that includes, or so if there's a week with a holiday in there, they don't physically work, but they get paid holiday for that. If they were asked to come in the evening or another day to work, they would not get paid overtime because for that holiday, they didn't physically work. So personnel had discussed this, and we felt it made sense to pay staff overtime over 40 hours, not necessarily physically working to 40 hours. So I'll make a motion to approve the amendment to City of Edgerton Personnel Policies and Procedurals Manual to define work week.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Just to clarify that only added holidays and paid holidays in there, didn't include vacation or
Correct.
personal time.
Yes.
Most of those holidays fall in the winter time when they may need to come in for snow removal and salt.
And that was the issue with Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, so forth. If they have to come in and work late, they're not getting paid overtime for it because they aren't actually working 40 hours, so.
I think too, it's important to note that we would, by adopting this, we were one of the only cities in the area that didn't already have this adopted. I think Monroe was the only other outlier.
Good
Yeah.
point. Yep.
So,
Right, anyone else? Roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Motion passes.
And that's it from personnel.
Thank you. Anything to come forward from historic?
We met last Monday. Was that last Monday or the Monday before?
It was last Monday, I think.
Okay. And we approved a certificate of appropriateness if the owner of the warehouse at what's 1 Fulton Street decides to move forward with vinyl windows instead of wooden windows. But they would have to be as close to the original appearance as possible. And that goes back to RDA to see if they will approve. That's why we had to revisit it, because they didn't like the original prototype that was brought forward, so. And that was all.
Thank you. Anything from the fire district?
So I have really nothing, but I do believe we have Chief Pickering remotely, that if he'd like to give us an update, that'd be awesome.
Sure, I'd be glad to. A couple of just miscellaneous things. Budget obviously is approved, and I want to thank the city along with our other 4 municipalities. We were able to get through that process relatively well. So thank you very much for all the help that Ramona and Cindy provided as we worked through that one together. Also, we sincerely want to extend our appreciation to the city and the other municipalities for the work that they've done with us to help us be eligible for a portion of the CARES Act funding associated with the health crisis we're in right now. So sincerely appreciate that, and want to extend our appreciation again to Ramona and Cindy, who worked a lot on helping us get through that one. So thank you. The biggest thing that we have going on right now is related to vaccinations. And along with the police department, we've been working very close with Rock County Public Health and with our medical control, along with our local hospital, to make sure that our first responders that protect the Edgerton community are in the prioritization list associated with vaccinations. You folks have all been following along on basically the national news about the fact that there is less vaccine than there are people in the priority 1A category to be vaccinated. So we know that there's going to have to be some prioritization. We've tried to establish some guidelines here in the county for dealing with that. But literally until the county finds out how much vaccine we're actually going to receive, we don't know how far into that prioritization list or reverse prioritization list we're going to have to go. But very good, close working relationship between the municipalities, Rock County Health, and Medical Control to try to sort all that out. Other than that, take any questions, but that's about it.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for the chief?
Thanks, chief.
No questions coming at you. Thanks.
Sounds good. You're welcome.
Next item is to consider adopting City of Edgerton Resolutions 2420, approval of right-of-way plat for South Main Street.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item is to consider adopting City of Edgerton declaration recognizing the last Friday in April as Arbor Day.
Make a motion to recognize the last Friday in April as Arbor Day.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Burdick, Braun,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item is considering adopting City of Edgerton Resolution 2320, City Council's intent to waive repurchase land rights for 4 Gear Drive.
So move.
A second.
Any discussion?
I just had a question. How much did they pay for it originally?
I'm going on memory. I think it was 18,000 for the lot.
Okay, it wasn't $1, so,
It was not.
yeah, okay. That's all.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Burdick,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Motion passes.
And Bill, I know you're not supposed to say so moved, but just trying to speed things.
Discuss and consider action for vacant District 2 alderperson seat. We did have a memo from city attorney here. If I can find the page where I had it.
A couple options.
Anybody have any thoughts other than on number 2 on the filling down the bottom part of it? If we do decide to do this, I don't think the letter should be sent to me. I think it should be sent to the council president because this is not my decision, so make it even out of my hands that way, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just for I mean, can we have a discussion or do we need to make motions and then discussions? For this particular thing, I think we should have discussion. Okay. The boss says we can have discussions. Let's go. A lot of my decision, or my thoughts, not my decisions, my thoughts on this tonight has an awful lot to do with the pandemic that we're in. I think we need to kind of keep that at forefront. And I say that from speaking personally, I am up again for election in April. And I've been speaking with Cindy and talking about how difficult, not necessarily for me, but as I think about going out and getting signatures. I hate to put anybody out. I hate to put them in a situation that would make them uncomfortable. I've got some workarounds and I'm doing it, but I'm thinking about something like that. And anybody who might be new and having to deal with that, I think is a pretty awkward situation. And because of that and everything going on, I kind of like the thought of filling the vacancy by appointment and keeping it through the entire term, which would be April 2022, instead of having two coming up in April of 2021.
Not to mention the fact that if we put somebody in there now, they've only got a couple of weeks to decide if they want to run, to take out papers to
Correct,
run.
to take out papers. That's
How are they gonna, I mean, by the time we ain't gonna get this done anyway. So they're past their time to decide if they want to run,
right.
by the time we get it done. Right? What's the quickest we can get this? First week in January?
You've got one more meeting in December, depending upon your process. I mean, it's,
If we had it, yeah,
Well, that's a good point. And
people
so
by then, so.
my other thought with that is if we wanted to go to the full term with April of 2022, we could have letters of intent addressed to the council president and turned in to City Hall by December 17th and have those letters of intent, have Ramona put them in our packets for our December 21st meeting, so we could look at those letters, and then maybe at the December 21st meeting, make a decision on a candidate. We could have the candidates physically here to talk to us, but again, we're in a very different environment. I'm not comfortable with having a lot of other people in the room if we don't need to. If they write a letter of intent, we should have a good idea of their thoughts, their ideas, their intention to run. We could possibly make a decision at the December 21st meeting and maybe have that person fill the vacant seat starting at our first meeting in January, which I believe is January 4th. So those are just some thoughts I had.
Okay, is there anybody that wants to do number one and do nothing?
That's what I was gonna say, I mean, that is also an option. I mean, what would the setbacks be of not filling that seat?
For till 2022?
Yeah, I'm asking in general, I want to.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
somebody's not
one thing, I
represented.
could speak
We won't have any
from
tie
being the
votes.
only person, older person in that district.
Sure, yeah.
You know, it would be, not that I don't get a lot of calls, I do get a fair amount, but that could
Ease
be,
of workload for you.
yeah.
And it's not fair to the
Which is not
residents of
our-
that district, in my opinion, because they
Okay,
don't.
I generally was
Right.
curious,
Oh, right.
like,
I'm sorry, what was that, Chris?
It's not fair to the residents in that, because they
Yeah.
maybe don't want to call you.
have a limited.
Yeah, maybe they don't want to call me.
Which is what most of us hear.
I am busy, you know.
She goes to most of
Right,
us,
we
yeah.
got committee appointments that are vacant right now, too, we'd have to.
That's a good point, yeah, the
Yeah,
committee
thanks, Mo.
appointments.
I don't think well, I don't know how much I can even say on this issue. I don't think we should skip nothing. Okay. But I don't have a nomination
you just
process
can't
at all for me to
vote.
do this.
Yeah.
And the spring election, that kind of eliminates the next two, or next three, the bottom two. Number two, I think that's the way we should go with it. Fill it by appointment until 2022 election, April election.
This is a question I have. The appointee, whoever that may be, would they have the option to run for reelection at that point? Okay.
Oh, you mean at the end of 2022?
Right.
Yeah.
As long as
Are
they
they-
still live there and still live
Right.
in the
Yeah,
district.
good point.
I had something. So I hadn't thought about it that way with the pandemic and what we're asking someone to do, and the timing is incredibly awkward with having to take out papers right now for a seat that you maybe get appointed to. But where I've been thinking is not so much with the pandemic, but it's with elections, and they're in the news. And I also think it's very awkward for four of us who don't live in that district, to pick someone to serve the full length. I'm for appointing in January but just getting them to April, because I mean, that's a long, it seems like too long of a time to appoint when we're bypassing a big election where we're holding it anyway, where we're electing your seat. I mean, if someone's sincere about it, it's 20 signatures. I mean, you're gonna do it, anyone is gonna do it. So I don't think it looks right for us to appoint for the full term. And for us appointing someone in January or however the timetable, and I know it's awkward for the person, but I mean, you all have to get signatures as well, and I don't know quite how you do it in this, but I just think that's too long of a time. Especially when I said the four of us, outside of yourself, we don't live there, and we're picking that person.
Well, they're kind of picking themselves too, if, depending on how many get in or express an interest. You could, if you're not gonna fill until January, you could have the 2, 3, 5, whatever number shows up, present it at the 21st meeting, and then fill it at the 4th of January meeting, if you get some input from the second district residents on if there's any of them they would prefer of the candidates that did present their argument.
So instead of going through their letter of intent, we could have them physically at a meeting to have them express their reasoning for running, or is that what you're saying?
We have done that in the past, but
Okay.
I'm saying not fill it, vote on it until the 4th.
Sure.
So you'd have the 2 weeks in between the announcement of the ones that are interested. For anybody in the second district, they could get a hold of the 5 of you and express their interest or their concern as to which one
Sure.
they would prefer in there. But then are you still talking that going all the way to 2022? Because I think Casey's concerned is not going to 2022.
Well, that's my thought, is to go all the way to
If
2022.
you do it that way. Okay, because see, if we're looking at Casey's way, in my opinion, I wouldn't even fill it if you're gonna look at April
That would be
2021.
my thought as well.
Sorry, Candy, but we're 4 months, I wouldn't bother filling it if you're gonna do it 2021. So you lose 4 months with somebody
Right.
else, and don't bother appointing anybody.
Don't
until
bother
then.
for 4 months,
I mean,
right?
There's really, what are they gonna pick up, what are they gonna do for those 4? How much are they gonna get? So, you either get all the way or special
You know,
election 2021.
And then I
Per year.
would, I wonder too, then, if we did that with only going to 2021, would we always have 2 alder people up every year?
1-year term for it.
It would be a 1-year term, thank you. Okay, yes, that's right.
So somebody theoretically could run for your seat and the 1-year term.
Yes, that's right. I remember that happened once before. Yep.
Is it possible to ask for interest to see who would be interested in the seat by appointment before we actually decide that's what we're going to do?
Why would that make a difference with their decision?
I couldn't think of one.
Well, if there isn't any quality candidates that we think would be able to fill that position as an appointee, then I would suggest we have an election. And then it's whoever takes the papers out, takes the papers out.
So I've had some people reach out to me,
Okay.
and I feel like there's at least one qualified, just in my point of view, only my point of view. So.
Well, that's your district, so I mean.
No, I know, but it's a council, just
Just
getting
important, and that
to
was
your,
my question, that was one of my. inquiries,
getting
you know,
to your, yeah, you're right. Does it make sense if we don't have anybody that's qualified, so to speak, but.
It was more me
There's been
asking
some
if
interest.
we back ourselves into a corner by choosing that option, and
Sure.
there isn't any one.
In fact,
we'd
I
like to
have-
appoint.
I have had somebody indicate, this person indicated quite the interest and indicated would prefer not to, for 4 months and then have to go through the thing and then do it again. And, you know, it's the longer term, makes a little bit more sense. Because I originally thought too, maybe a person would like to, if they've not ever been on council before, try it for 4 months and see if they liked it. But I've had people say, if I'm interested, I'm interested for the long haul. I'm not doing it just to, maybe I'd like it or maybe I wouldn't type of thing.
I wouldn't want to appoint someone for that short of a time anyway. Doesn't make sense to
I'm
me.
guessing, Bill, we don't have like a 90-day or 120-day review to revoke this guy.
Was it on us? And who's to say it's a guy? Who's to say it's a guy?
That's general terms, you know,
I know.
guy, gal, whatever, you know.
I'm kidding.
This is Ann. I feel with an election coming up in April that it would be appropriate to let the people decide and put it to a vote.
Well, if we put out the word, that we're looking, to your point, Sarah, I don't think that boxes us in. If we don't like any of our choices, right, we could punt and do nothing the next time we meet, or January. I mean, it doesn't set in motion what we're gonna do necessarily. Does it?
Other than the April election, you could have a special election, but
Yeah.
that's.
No, I don't want to do that.
Right.
But I meant, I think what you were getting at, Sarah, is like, if we say, all right, people, let us know and send a letter or whatever, if that doesn't tie our hands. I mean, if it was,
If that, I'm sorry, what, Casey?
My general concern is that we would say that, ask people to express interest in the seat, and then there wouldn't be any, and we would have already backed ourselves into a corner saying we're appointing from that pool of people that are interested, and there wouldn't be anybody we'd want to appoint.
but I don't think we're in the corner.
No.
Yeah.
And then they could turn around and run just because we pissed them off, upset them because we didn't pick them, so they make it, right? Okay. We're gonna run short on time if we start looking at things like that. We gotta either,
Well,
I
we
think
should
we would go to
probably get the
special
word
meeting.
out that there's this vacancy, and because of signatures, we probably should indicate tonight if we're really letting the people decide in April. So that person can get their act together and get the signatures
Exactly,
for
that's what I'm
April.
saying. Exactly. You're concerned about letting the people decide, then we go to April.
Yeah,
We go vacant for 4 months.
though I don't really have a problem with appointing someone for the interim as well.
And you just got tied votes.
Yeah, the vote went real fast tonight with just 5 votes all night. So, shocked me a few times. I was not paying good attention, and the 5th vote was called. Oh, yeah, that's all of them.
Clearly, we need someone else on finance. And the other committees that Alder Reynolds served on, do they meet that often, or how are we sitting otherwise?
Well, Casey, that's a very good question, Mayor. How would that work? Would this person filling Alderperson Reynolds' seat sit in the same seats as Reynolds did, or would you reshuffle if needed? Okay, so you can reshuffle in between, okay. Yeah. Yeah, there's enough committees, especially finance and that he sits on, that Sarah and I both handle finance tonight, and we can do that, but it limits, we have to ensure that we're here. And probably, we always have been, but if somebody gets ill,
Right.
then you don't have a committee. And for letting it go 4 months and during a pandemic, I'd be a little bit nervous about that. When you have the small committees where you would have that vacant.
Is a two-person committee, we did it tonight, and it
Yeah.
worked, but is it
A lot of times.
Legal?
Sure.
Is it?
Any ties,
Yeah.
any ties are an issue.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
It's inconvenient.
yeah.
You know, a tie vote, do you bring it to council or does it die at the committee?
Depends on the topic, right?
Normally it would die. They could agree to move it to committee.
Right.
or Council rather.
Right?
You know, if no one shows interest and fills out paperwork to run in April, then I'm fine making that call that we appoint someone till 2022.
So say that again, Casey?
If no one fills their paperwork out to run for that one-year term, then we should appoint till the length of the term till 2022, but we'll know that soon enough.
What's the deadline, Cindy?
January 5th.
Yeah, it's,
2 meetings in between now.
Mhm.
Okay, interesting.
yeah, it's tough. And like I said, speaking from experience, this is not an optimal time to try to get signatures. And it's not that I don't have the time to do it. I am contacting people via text, phone, saying, if you'd like to support me, I'll put my papers on your doorstep. I will be standing at the curb. I've wiped everything down. If you could sign, then put it back out there. I go get it. I wipe everything down again. It's just,
Yeah.
and some people, if somebody asked me at this time if I'd endorse their papers, I would think twice about signing something at my doorstep, just
Right.
during this pandemic. It's just, this is a different time, this. Do we vote motions? Do we have to make motions? Is that what we have to do here? Yes?
Yes.
And I'm wondering if we should do this piecemeal? Or if we should have one big motion?
Just,
Because to me, there's a couple things that it's the term and it's the process, right?
Yeah.
So,
I don't know that I describe it as doing it, that there's multiple things. You're going to have an election, that's one item, but if you're not gonna have an election, you're pointing for the term, the entire term. So if you don't want to have a special election or have this on the ballot in April, then just make a motion to appoint someone to solicit interest. Of course, if you get no one that has interest.
Oh, sure.
If no one expresses a letter of intent, then you're going to have to either decide to leave it vacant or to have a special election at some point in the future, clearly not April.
And if nobody's gonna not turn in a letter of intent, are they gonna run for a spot if they haven't got the easy way in here?
Right. It's never been an easier way.
well, I'd like to make a motion to fill the vacancy by appointment for the remainder of the term until April 2022.
I'll second.
Discussion on the motion to fill the term. Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes?
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
No.
Radke,
No.
Burdick,
No.
Motion fails.
Sorry.
Okay, so it's not gonna go to the term, so there will be a one-year term on the ballot.
Right.
Do we need to even make a motion on that part, or does that have to be voted on? It'll be on the April ballot because there's-
Well, this should be
It's still the action of doing nothing.
Exactly.
Right.
We do need a motion.
Clarify that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So someone, I would presume, is going to ask to have it placed on the April ballot for a,
Yeah, one-year term. I would move that we place a one-year term on the April ballot for the District 2 Alder seat.
I'll second.
Okay, and still have the opportunity to fill it by appointment till then. the way the motion reads. Okay.
it's to the end of the term, so I mean, you don't have to say it's one year term.
Correct.
It effectively is.
Yes.
Okay, any discussion on that?
Yeah, I don't care for that. I don't care. We will have 2 seats open on the April 6th ballot then, correct? One a 2-year term, one a 1-year term. That gets very confusing to people too, to constituents. But, yeah. And you can have people, just so you know, can run for both those seats.
Both those seats, yeah.
Wait,
Just to make it even more confusing, I'm just telling you.
It's happened before.
It's happened before, and it's very confusing. And even the voters get confused, what does this mean? Why is this person on both these, and what does this mean? And
Right.
Any more discussion?
Okay, wait a minute. Your motion right now is just to place it on the April 2021 ballot, or, right, ballot.
Right.
You didn't say anything about filling it or anything prior to that.
It's not, that's separate. I mean,
Right,
that's.
right, just, okay, I'm
Yeah.
sure you just said that part, because,
Yeah, that's
It's not
to be
specific.
determined what we do between now and then, but
right, I'm just looking at these options, and when that one comes in there, it says it remains vacant until after the election, and that's not what we said, or what you're saying.
okay, just to clarify for my own sakes, how do they differentiate which seat they want to run for?
they can run for both.
Yeah, but
They
when you're,
actually, you run, instead of saying you're running for District 2 alderperson, you're running for District 2 alderperson, 1-year term or 3-year
Okay.
term.
Or both, they can do
have to-
both.
They have to fill duplicate
sets of
papers
papers.
out.
2 separate papers.
But the same people can sign
Same
all
people
of
can
them.
sign them, you just turn in 2 papers.
that's,
And say it has happened.
No, if someone would win both,
I know, it's
they
weird,
would
but
have to
we live
pick
in
which
weird
one they
times.
want, and the other one stays vacant.
no.
Howard just asked if someone would win, if they ran for both seats, and they won both seats.
They declined one.
They declined one, which they would pick which one they wanted, and the other one would be vacant and either stay vacant or
Do
be
this.
appointed.
And then we're back to
Then we're
this
back to
again.
square one.
Yep,
There we go. It's a very good question.
Guess you'd
I
asked
think
that
we're
earlier.
making this more difficult than what it needs to be,
I
to
wish
be
you'd asked
honest
that
with
earlier,
you.
Howard.
The timing is really bad for this to be going
I
on
think
right now.
this is the White House.
Where we're at.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, there's a motion on the floor to put it on the ballot for, in April, to fill the term. Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, roll call.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
No,
Braun,
No,
Davis,
No,
Motion fails.
okay, Bill, having voted in the majority on the previous motion to that, can I move to reconsider it?
To reconsider, yeah.
Can reconsider the fill the vacancy by appointment for the term? I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
would you repeat that?
your motion, your first
I'm
motion.
gonna move-
Motion to reconsider though, correct?
Yes, this is that.
This is the-
Reconsider.
whether or not you wish to reconsider it, to allow you to reconsider your, I assume,
Oh.
potentially, the original motion.
It's to reconsider, okay.
Since I voted on the winning side, I can bring that back for discussion.
Okay, the motion is to reconsider the motion that was failed previously to fill it for the term. Any discussion?
And for clarification, it was the first motion failed, the first failed.
Right, it was the
Yes.
first failed motion.
Candy and Sarah's, yes.
Hearing no discussion, no further discussion, roll call.
This is just to reconsider.
Yes,
Yes.
Burdick,
yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
No.
Davis,
Yes.
Radke,
No.
Let's see where these numbers keep going back and forth here, so motion passes. And now does that motion have to be re-presented?
No, you're reconsidering that original motion. You can have discussion on the on the motion.
Motion, so-
Further discussion, I should say. Before you call it.
Okay, and the motion was originally to fill the vacancy by appointment until 2022 election.
Correct.
Any discussion?
I just want to point out that I feel like because of this, the timing of all of this, with what we have going on with the pandemic and the actual, the different possibilities that could come back to where we're back here at the table deciding the same thing again is an inefficient use of our time when we have other more pressing things that we need to do and make sure get pushed through and done for the community. So that's my main reasoning.
And I'm going to say I'm not just doing this to take an easy way out, because this isn't going to be an easy way out. Like you said, we're going to put somebody in there for over a year, what the people didn't elect, possibly, if this passed. But I think we can make a good choice if there's enough interest. We can make a good choice of someone who we've been on long enough to know whether they can do it or not. And I think we can make that decision, so, and I think that's the way I'm going to go.
And maybe we have the candidates physically come here then. I mean, if that would give people more comfort to physically state their intent instead of putting it in writing. Very open to that.
Or remotely.
That was going to be.
Or remote,
Yeah, that was going to
absolutely.
be my next after we decide which way we're going.
Okay.
Because I really would like to talk to people, not just look
Okay.
at a piece of paper.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
yeah, the process would be
Sure.
further discussion once we decide, okay?
And thankfully for everyone's safety, we have a video option now as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion?
No, I would just state that I totally agree, the timing is terrible with the calendar for the election, with the pandemic, and I have no doubt that the five of us can pick a good person from this community to represent, but I'm just gonna vote no because an election stands between us and them, and, you know, we could do it that way, so. But it's not, you know, I'm fine with the way this is gonna proceed.
You're up, Ann.
I agree.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Roll call.
So this is the
This is
same,
the Candy, Sarah.
okay. Davis,
And this is to elect somebody for the full term through April 2020.
appoint.
I'm sorry, appoint through to April 2022.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Yes.
Sarah, Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
No.
Radke,
No.
Burdick,
Yes.
Motion passes. Got a lot of 3-2s back and forth here on the top of my notepad here. Okay, now, what else do we need on that?
Process?
Yeah. how-
Do you want to solicit letters of intent? You can set this up pretty much any way you want. I mean, if you have someone in mind, someone could make a motion this evening. Someone could come back at the next meeting and make a motion, or you can solicit letters of interest, I said intent, but I don't say interest, in the position and qualifications, and bring that back, and whether it be next week, or next month, or next meeting, or next month, it doesn't matter. You have control, there's no immediacy, well, there's immediacy, but there's no requirement that it be done immediately.
So back to your original thought, Candy, was the letters of interest by the 17th, and
Yeah, by the 17th, and then have them available for the December 21st meeting to speak their intent, their interest as to what their interest is and why, and what they can bring to the table.
and then you would appoint that night to fill the 4th, or fill immediately, or,
I would say, I'm suggesting that we appoint that night to fill for, starting in the January meeting.
I'm going to add one thing in to consider, is that if there's concern about having public input, if you have a time period between when the names are released, there may be an opportunity then for us to do our best through our website, Facebook, to let people know, here are the candidates. If you have an opinion, I mean, it wouldn't be an official ballot, but it would allow people some opportunity to call you as a representative, or any of you, to say, you know, I feel strongly about the candidates in this way. If that's trying to get at some of the public should have some input into that.
Sure.
So I'm just saying, I'm suggesting that if that's important, that might give you that
So
chance.
then moving the
actual vote to the
actual
4th.
vote to the January meeting, January 4th, is that what you're suggesting?
I was gonna say, what's the rush if we know we're gonna do this
Yeah.
until 2022?
Yeah,
We
I'd
could take
rather
our time
have
and do it right.
as much information gathered
Sure.
and feedback as possible, so then
Sure.
we can make the most educated and best decision.
Sure.
Is this notification, you said Facebook and everything, but we publish newspaper?
We could put an ad in the paper.
Because we've got, okay, I was gonna say, we only have a couple times between now and the 17th to do that, so
Sure.
let's take our time and get it in there at least a couple.
And then again, after the 21st,
We get the names, yes.
so you can have people respond to that too, then?
Correct. After we get the names, we can, like, so people can call, inquire, what's the process, what they're doing.
So state that again, now I'm a little bit lost.
Put an ad in the paper
Yep,
this week, hopefully, with looking for the interest, who's interested. And then after the 21st, after you've gotten the letters back, and if you do a interview type thing, put another ad in and say, we want your input on these candidates. Who would you like to represent in your district?
but they would come before the council on the 21st, you said, or not? No.
I would think so.
Yep, okay. I just
They'll
wanna
submit their
make sure
letter
I'm
of
following.
interest on the 17th, written, and then they have to attend the 21st, so that you have it in the packet. And then they attend the 21st and give a presentation. And then the following meeting, solicit input between that time and the following meeting appoint. Is that what we're saying?
Sure.
That would also give anybody that is present virtually or here from the public during the meeting when the potential candidates are talking to listen in or on
Sure.
their own.
Good idea.
Was that a motion?
You know, I honestly don't know that that needs to be a motion. I think we can direct
Oh, okay.
the staff to undertake that. I don't know that that's has to be written up by a motion, so.
Everybody in agreement with that process?
Well, just quick, but just so I'm clear, anything we do with these I shouldn't say do with these candidates, but interviewing whatnot is all public,
Yeah.
correct? Or does it have to be, or no? It should be, because it's replacing an election, I would imagine, right? So.
Probably
there's no
not
reason we
closed
wouldn't.
session eligible.
There's no reason we wouldn't, but I mean, it's not like,
Well, if you were a bigger body, you might appoint a selection committee, and that committee would ad hoc, and they meet, and that would be public.
Right.
So the short answer is yes, this would all be carried on.
okay.
And our initial selection would be January 4th meeting, is that correct? Is that what we determined? Thank you.
appoint and seat that night.
Okay.
If that works,
If the timing works, I don't think, yeah, we need to put.
work with the swearing in. I know we've done it in the past. We have them come out of the audience and come up and get sworn in and take their seats, so.
The rest of us are gonna get sworn in, I'm sure, but
So we've got a couple advertisements to put out.
And will it be on Facebook too, the cities? Okay, good, thank you.
And you don't need anything else on that. We've got it pretty well.
I don't believe so.
Whatever motions are done, are done. Okay. Mayor, all the person and staff reports.
none.
You have none? Well, it's other than Pearl Harbor Day today and Hanukkah's coming up, so, and a few other holidays after that, so we'll start getting in the spirit of that, hopefully. Other than that, I have nothing. Anyone else? Anybody want to get out of here?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Langen,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Urban,
Why not? Yes.
That was 5, wasn't it? Motion passes.